just fun coding for everyone. Today, we're going to learn how to code by making a classic arcade game from the 1970s. Pong was released by Atari, and the idea behind it was two players, each had a paddle. The paddles returned the ball back and forth, and score was kept using numbers at the top of the screen. We're going to recreate this game, first of all, in Scratch. If you want to head on over to scratch.mit.edu and click on Create, we can get started. What we're going to do is get rid of the sprite on the screen so that we have an empty stage. This is our canvas. Now the original Pong game had a black background, so we are going to change this backdrop by clicking on Paint Backdrop. And we're going to change the full color to black. Set everything down and go ahead and draw a square that will fill your stage. Make it full screen to ensure that it fills the entire stage. And then we are ready to grab our sprites. So we need two paddles and a ball. So let's go ahead and click on the Choose a Sprite tool and click on the Search for a Sprite. In the search bar, type in paddle. Choose the paddle that is already provided. Now our paddles need to be vertical, so let's change the direction to 180 degrees. Okay. The center of the screen, the Y value will be 0. So we'll have it in the center of the screen on the vertical axis and at minus 200 on the x-axis. That's 200 pixels to the left, 200 units to the left. And we'll rename this paddle 1. Now paddle 2 is going to be exactly the same, except it'll be red. So right click on paddle 1 and say duplicate. Let's move it to 0 on the y-axis and 200 on the x. Now click on the Costumes tab and the little fill tool, change the color to red and fill. Now we have two paddles, red and green. Green is paddle 1, red is paddle 2. Now we need a ball. Let's search for another sprite, and here's a nice ball we can use. It's too big, so let's reduce the scale by half, bringing it down from 100 to 50. Make sure it's centered by putting it on 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis, right in the center of the screen. Now, let's make sure that we can move our paddles. Our paddles are only going to move in the vertical direction, so we're only going to worry about movement on the y-axis. So let's click on paddle 1 and let's go to the Control tab and let's put it in a loop that runs forever, because we always want to be able to move our paddles. And what we want to do is change its Y value by 10. So if you click this, you'll see that it just starts moving upwards. However, we want it to move up or down depending on a key being pressed. So let's go to the Sensing tab and grab the key pressed. On the left hand side we'll use W and S for for up and down. So let's go and find W for up. So what we want to say, if you go back to Control tab, is if the W key is being pressed, we want to change Y by 10. And now if I press W, if I move it back and press W, it will go up. Okay, let's duplicate this, plug it in below, change the W to an S, and change the 10 to a negative 10, so that now if I press S, the paddle will move down. This code is going to be exactly the same for the other paddle, except we're going to use different keys. We're going to use the up and down arrow. So I'm going to grab the code so that I can move it around, and I'm going to move it over the red paddle and drop it. Release. And now you can see that the red paddle has the same code, and all I need to do is change the keys to the up arrow and the down arrow. Now the question we have to ask ourselves is, when are these paddles going to start moving? And the answer would be when we start playing the game. Well, when does the game start? What's the signal to start the game? I suggest clicking this green flag. So if we say when green flag clicked on both paddles, then when we click the green flag, I can now move my paddle on the left and move my paddle on the right. Okay, and so we have movement of our paddles. They can be controlled. Now we can change the speed at which our paddles move by changing this value here, 10 and minus 10. If we increase those values, the paddles will move faster. If we decrease those values, the paddles will move slower. But that's all we really need to do for the paddles. Let's move along to the ball. Select your ball in the sprite area, and now we have the ball. Most of the code for this game happens on the ball sprite. So let's go. When the green flag is clicked, let's make sure that everything starts in the right place. The ball should be moved to the center of the screen. And we should actually ensure in the paddle's code that it begins at the right place. Minus 200 on the X for the left hand paddle, 0 on the Y. For the right hand paddle, 200 on the X, 0 on the Y. So now we know whenever we click this green flag, everything is centered and starts in the right place. Okay, back to the ball. So when the green flag is clicked, the ball goes to the center of the stage. Clicking the green flag means you're starting the game. Now what we want to do is we want to make the ball start out by moving in a random direction. It could go to the left hand side or to the right hand side. The players should never know which way it's going to go. So what we actually need is a random value. So if you go to the Operators tab, then you can pick values you can pick random values between a range of numbers. Now I would suggest that we make the ball start by moving at an angle of between minus 45 and plus 45 degrees, so it'll always shoot off at a slight angle either to the left or to the right. So let's put minus 45 there, 45 there. Okay, so when the green flag is clicked, the ball should start moving. So let's see, let's go to the motion tab and say point in direction minus 45 to 45, so we don't know which direction it's going to start pointing in. Then we should make the ball move. So the ball can easily move by saying move 10 steps. But what's going to happen when it reaches the end? Well, it's not going to bounce off the walls unless we go and grab the if on edge bounce command. So now what you'll find happening is it will bounce around the screen. And each time we start, it should choose a slightly different direction to start moving. Okay. Excellent. We have the makings of a game. Now, what we want to do is if the ball collides with one of these paddles, then we want to make it reverse its direction. So what we should do is go to control and grab a little F and check under the sensing tab if the ball is touching one of the paddles. It will be touching either paddle 1 or it'll be touching paddle 2. We need the OR operator. Okay, so if it's touching paddle 1 or if it's touching paddle 2, we want to reverse its direction. Now fortunately, under motion, the direction of the ball is always being saved and updated in this variable called direction. So what we can do is if it's touching one of the paddles, we can create a little formula here with our operators and make its direction, set its direction to 360 degrees minus its current direction, which will reverse its direction. It'll reverse the angle that the ball hit the paddle at. And we want to set its direction to that. So we want to say we want to point in direction 360 minus direction if it's touching a paddle. So we can test this by running our game and having a look when it hits a paddle. Let's see what happens. Looks like it's working to me. There will be some problems when it's behind or just on the hitbox of the paddle. Let's have a look. There we go. Okay, so game is functioning. You can also do things like add acceleration when it hits the paddle and so on, but for now let's just keep it simple. So we've got it going now. Now what we can do is make sure to increase the scores when a goal is scored. How are we going to know when a goal has been scored? Well, when the ball moves beyond the paddle on the left or beyond the paddle on the right, there's no way for the paddle to hit the ball anymore. That would constitute a goal. So if the ball's X position is less than minus 200 on the left or more than 200 on the right, we're going to count that as a goal. Now we need a way to keep track of the goals, so we're going to create two variables. If you click on the variables tab, I'm just going to rename this one that's already here to player 1 and make another one called player 2. Alright, so if you click the tick, the variables become visible, and I'm going to spread them out here so that we can see them. There's player 1 score and there's player 2 score. Now if we're going to be checking for a goal, what we need is to say if the x value of the ball, so x position of the ball, is less than minus 200, then that is a goal. So that's if the ball has moved to the left of the green paddle, then that's a goal for player 2. They scored. So then we will increase or change player 2's score by 1. They scored a goal. And put that there. Let's do it again. If the x position of the ball is greater than 200, then we are going to change player 1's score by 1. Okay, and let's have a look how if that works. So there goes our ball. It's gonna move. Didn't make it there. Let's move away so it can get past us here. Okay, and there goes the score. But now there's a problem, because the score continues to increase for all the time that the position of the ball is behind the paddle. So we need to find a way to stop that. Okay, so another thing we should do here is reset the scores when the game starts. So we should set player 1's score and set player 2's score to 0 when the game starts. I'm going to minimize the screen a bit so we have more space in the script area. What you'll notice is our code is starting to get very long and difficult to work with already. So what we should do is split it up into the parts of the code that do things. Okay, so let's make a block called move ball. Alright, and how do we define moving the ball? Well, moving the ball is this over here. It's the ball moving 10 steps, and if it's on the edge, bouncing. That's moving the ball. Okay. What is this here? Checking to see if it's hit a paddle. Okay, let's make a block for that. Let's call it check collisions. We're checking to see if one sprite has collided with another. Okay, so how do we check collisions? Well, that's this code here. That's this. If touching paddle 1 or paddle 2, then reverse direction. So that's checking collisions. Okay, this is moving the ball. Right. What is this? This is starting the game. So let's make a block here called game start. Okay, when we start the game, we want to reset the scores. We want the ball to go to the center and point in a random direction. Okay, so when the green flag is clicked, we actually want to start the game, game start. Okay, which is that. So the game starts, and then what is this code doing here? This is checking goals. So let's make a block called check goals. All right. And how do we define checking the goals? Well, checking the goals is this code over here, which says if if the X position is less than -200, then player 2, otherwise player 1. So when the game starts, we set up all these things, and then we should forever, right, forever in a loop, we should forever move the ball, check for collisions, and check the goals. Okay, so this is our main script now. So what happens is they click the green flag, it calls game start. This then runs, which calls these other functions we've created. Okay, it just makes things easier to look for, because if there's a problem with checking the goals, we just need to go and find the solution over here. If there's a problem with the collisions, we just need to look there. If the ball's not moving properly, we just need to move there. Just check that everything still works after all those changes. Yeah, seems to be fine. Okay, so now what we need to do is when they check the goals, if the X position is like that, yes, we do change their score, but we don't want to now continue changing the score. So what we actually want to do is reset. Once a goal is scored, we want to reset. Okay, so let's make a block called reset. Okay, and what does reset actually mean? Resetting means we move the ball back to the center. Where is it? Here, go to the center, go to X naught, Y naught. It should launch the ball again. Okay, so maybe what this should be, move that. That can be in its own block called launch, because that's launching the ball off, starting everything. Let's make another block here called launch ball. Okay, which is this. Okay, so when we launch the ball, we move it and we check for collisions and check for goals. That's what happens when you launch the ball. So when you reset, you move the ball back to the center and you launch again. Right. Over at the game start, we need to launch the ball. Okay, so if goal is scored, we need to reset. Okay. Let's go again. Yeah, okay, it's resetting and the score is not ticking up. Okay, so now what we need to do is it resets incredibly quickly. So we need to slow things down a little bit so the players know what's going on. So when you do reset, you do go to 0, 0. If you go to control, let's wait half a second before relaunching the ball. So 0.5 before relaunching the ball. And relaunching the ball should also point in a random direction. So let's put that code in again. Point in a random direction between -45 and 45. Okay. That should already look better. Let's have a look. Let's try to get a better angle. There we go. Okay, goal scored, reset. Goal scored, reset. Okay, what we can do is it's very abrupt going back to the reset. So what we could add is that when a goal is scored, we play a little sound. So you can go to sounds. We can just say, okay, play sound pop. So it'll make a little popping noise. And then I would make it wait again. So play a little pop, wait 0.2 seconds. Okay. And then it resets, and resetting waits again half a second and then launches. Okay. What we could also do is if it's touching the paddle, it could also play a sound. So we could play the other sound. Okay, so let's test that and see. Okay, I don't recommend playing that sound on the paddles. Scratch doesn't seem to handle it very well. Okay, and this is another problem. If it gets stuck in the middle, we need a way to reset it as well. Let's take off the sound on the paddles. It's not working well at all. Let's go and get maybe the space bar for resetting. Put it as part of the ball launch, that if ever they hit reset, if ever they hit space, so if key space is pressed there, then we'll reset. Okay, so let's just try that now. Yeah, so now if you hit space, it's always going to reset. So if you get stuck, you can reset it. Alright, now what we've got is the two paddles. They can deflect the ball. The players can score by going beyond each other's paddles, and the ball bounces along. We've successfully emulated the game. What we need is a win condition. So what we could say is first player to 5 points is the winner. Okay, so what we can do is define a block here. Check for winner. Check for winner. Okay, and what it does is, so check for winner over here. Just make some space. Okay, check for winner. What it's going to do is it's going to say if player 1 or player 2, so if player 1 or player 2 has more than 4 points, which is 5, then they win. Then we end the game. Okay, so if player 1 or player 2 has more than 5 points, okay, then what are we going to do? We could change screens and say player 1 wins or player 2 wins, but for now we're just going to end the game. So what we could do is get another sprite, or let's choose another backdrop. We'll paint ourselves, and we'll just put some text here that says game over, and let's just move it to the center. Okay, and can delete that one, it's not used. So this is now backdrop. This is now, we'll just rename this one background. Okay, and rename this one game over. Okay, so if we now go back to our code tab, and on the ball we use check for a winner, and if player 1 is more than 4 or player 2 is greater than 4, then we're going to change switch backdrops to game over, and we're going to go to control and we're going to stop everything. So we're going to just stop all. Okay, we could do different things, of course, but I just want to get you running as fast as possible emulating this game. Now we just need to remember to call this check for winner function, which would be done as part of our launch ball. We're continually checking for the winner. So we're always moving the ball, checking for collisions, checking goals, checking if they need to reset, and we also want to check if someone's won. So we want to check for a winner. Okay, so now let's try it out. If we play the game, one, reset. Two, three, four. Okay, now this should be the winning goal. Here we go. Okay, and it switched to game over, and it stopped everything. I can't move the paddles anymore, and we have a win. All right. So everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this little tutorial on emulating a classic game, Pong, from the 1970s. I will be posting the code to this in the description, so please head on over and go to the link. Please like, comment, share this video. Hit the bell to be notified. And check out my next video where we will be creating Pong in another game engine, and we'll see what the difference is. Once again, thanks for joining me, everyone, and have a great day.